Thanks, man. Thank you. I've known you for 15 minutes and you already know I'm a Spartan, so everybody knows that. Thank you, Craig, for hosting us in this wonderful building and in this wonderful space. You know, if you're outside, you would not know all the neat things that are going on in here, but it's kind of like Ferndale. To some, we're kind of an undiscovered treasure, but this building, I think, represents that, and some really great energy going on in here. And Jay, thank you for introducing Craig and me. I really appreciate the chamber and all that you do in our city and all you do to sponsor this event. You know, I continue to value the hard work of our chamber. We have a new chamber director, by the way. If you don't know Ashley, you will eventually. She'll be knocking on your door to ask you to do something or join something. And Ashley, you've been a part of Ferndale for only a little while, but it seems like you've been here a long time, and we really appreciate it that you're here. I want to thank Dino's for the food. We're getting more than just hors d'oeuvres this year. You can make a whole meal out of that. So please take advantage of that and do it. I also want to recognize my fellow members on the City Council that are all here tonight. Mike Lennon, Melanie Piana, Dan Martin, and Greg Pollica. Give a hand to them. We've already been through a lot together as a council, and I really couldn't be prouder to call them my colleagues, and I appreciate that they're here. I also want to give a special recognition tonight to Mike Lennon, because I don't know if you know, but Mike recently announced that he's not going to be seeking another term on City Council this year. Mike comes from a long line of family members who have served our city with distinction. His father was the mayor of Ferndale. His brother David was a councilman like Mike. Mike was also a city police officer. So Mike's no-nonsense style, if you know Mike, you know that he has a no-nonsense and a common-sense style that I have always very much appreciated. So could you please help me congratulate him as he steps out of public arena at the end of this year. There he is. Thank you, Mike. I just want to quickly acknowledge the other elected officials that are here. Helene Zach, our county commissioner. A number of people from our library board, Monique Herzig, Judine Bartos, and our newest member, Adam Steinman, are here. Thank you. We love the partnership that we have with our library. Appreciate you being here as well. And Kyle Pollitt from Sandy Levin's office. Sandy was going to be here until he got a last-minute call from the president. I don't know if that's true or not. He says it is. So I believe Sandy. He wouldn't lie to me. So Kyle, appreciate you being here as well. Finally, I just want to thank all the city staff who came out today. You know, Ferndale is blessed with a hardworking and creative group of employees, and our residents can rest assured that the day-to-day operations of the city, under the leadership of our city manager, April Lynch, are in good hands. And April, by the way, just recently became a mom to baby Evelyn. Yes, let's give it up for April. I know she's going to make just as good a mother as she has a city manager, and so we're so glad to have you back, April. And we're also really glad that Joe Gauschow acted in her stead as our interim acting city manager and did an awesome job. So Joe, there's Joe. Thank you for filling in during her maternity leave. So I guess I'd like to start my talk tonight with a question, which is, why do you choose to live and work in Ferndale? I mean, it sounds simple, doesn't it? And we've probably asked ourselves this before. It might even sound a little silly. Maybe the answer seems obvious to you. You might say you're in Ferndale because of its location. Maybe your work or your family or friends brought you here, perhaps you even grew up here. But for most of us, I think it's more than that. I think it's more than geography, and it's more than proximity to people and places. We choose to live and work in Ferndale because it's not just a city, it truly is a community in the truest sense of that word. We feel safe here. We feel comfortable building our families, our businesses, raising our children here. There is plenty to do, Lord knows, between our downtown district and our local businesses, which are thriving. We have a strong network of friends and neighbors. It is an active and a vibrant place, not just to live or work, but to call home, and we value that. Tonight and in the weeks ahead, I want you to keep that word in mind, value. As you may know, there will be an important election in Ferndale on May the 5th, where the city is going to ask the Ferndale voters to renew the Headley millage and approve of streets and parks improvement bond. The things I'm going to talk to you about tonight, our people and our businesses, the city's initiatives that we've done, and the services that we provide are what they are today because of the community's value in them and their willingness to invest in them. So keep that in mind. In many ways, our city has had an incredible year, one of growth and accomplishment, and we want to make sure that we keep that momentum going in the right direction. Let me speak specifically about some of the accomplishments and issues related to our city operations this year. With winter finally behind us and the spring cleanup hitting us full force, Lloyd Curtin, our Department of Parks and Recreation, our DPW, Public Works Director is here. So it makes sense to start with him and his crew. They had another really busy year. The winter may not have started off as bad as last year, but it definitely ended with a bang. February alone brought more than 26 inches of snow to our community, and in some cases, record-breaking cold temperatures. Conditions like those mean frozen water lines, main breaks, and lots of road cleanup, and I see Lloyd shaking his head. This winter, we again heard over and over again from our residents, and I even got emails from people who don't live here but work in surrounding neighborhoods. Ferndale's roads are the cleanest ones around. Well, I don't take credit for that. I give the credit to the great crew. And they truly work around the clock at times to make sure that our streets are plowed and our problems are solved quickly. And yet, despite the great work, our department there continues to streamline and reduce expenses, and as the mayor, I'm equally proud of that. By hiring skilled employees that perform things like our annual tree maintenance, masonry, electrical and concrete and pavement work, versus contracting these services out, which is what we used to do, our DPW has managed to save more than $500,000 a year for the city budget. That's huge in a budget of $17 million, and we appreciate the effort of our DPW department. But Mother Nature didn't just affect us this winter, okay? Now, I think, in fact, that this t-shirt from Chris Gorski over at the Rust Belt Market pretty much sums things up. Let me share it with you. You might have seen this. I don't know if you can read that. It says, "Floods and blackouts and sinkholes and fruit flies. Oh my Ferndale." That about sums it up, right? By the way, these are for sale over at the Rust Belt Market. Chris Gorski would be happy to sell you one. We seem to get our fair share of natural disasters in this city. I'm not sure what that is. One of the defining moments we had over the last year was the catastrophic flooding that occurred last August. I'm sure you all remember that. An incredible 4.5 inches of rain fell in under 2 hours, causing extreme flooding throughout Wayne and Oakland counties. And Ferndale was hit hard. 65% of our households were affected, and more than 600 claims were filed in Ferndale. On August the 12th, I declared a state of emergency, a necessary step towards gaining the support needed for our city to recover. With the building flooded and phones and computers destroyed, the storm basically shut down City Hall. And all told, we sustained more than $700,000 worth of damage to our City Hall. But that didn't stop our city employees. I'm so proud of the way the city manager's office, the police, the fire, the DPW worked around the clock in the most calm and reassuring manner that I think I have seen to assist our residents, answer calls, and deal with the aftermath of that flood. And that didn't stop once the water had subsided and the cleanup was underway. The city continued to work with FEMA and the Oakland County Homeland Security Department to receive the state aid for debris removal, repairs to our streets and bridges that were damaged in the flood, and protective measures to help safeguard our city against similar incidents in the future. Now, that was a 300-year flood, so I don't expect to be the mayor when it happens again, but if they do, we're ready. You know, part of the reason I declared the emergency was to prod the state and then FEMA into declaring a national disaster. And I'm proud to say it worked. How bad did we need the help? Well, out of the 19 communities that got aid, Ferndale submitted the 4th most applications to FEMA. Our residents have applied now for over $3.3 million in assistance. So we were there when our residents need us, and I'm very proud of the job that our staff did in some of the most difficult situations. Let's turn to police for a minute. Despite a reduction in the employment costs in our police department, I'm happy to say that Ferndale's crime rates are down at levels that we literally haven't seen since the 1960s, and they continue to drop. Crimes in every major category in Ferndale are down over 50% since 2009. There's not a lot of communities that can say that. Chief Tim Collins is here. Let's have a round of applause for our police chief. And as Craig mentioned, the response time of our police is around 5% or less, and frankly is often under 3 minutes. And that comes from having a well-staffed police force. As the number of officers go down, response times go up. It goes to show patrol units on our streets and in our neighborhoods, low response times, and proactive crime reduction versus reactive crime response works for our city. Our police department also has a unique initiative this year. They're partnering with the Ferndale Public Schools and Baker College on a great new program that's going to start next fall called Early College. Chief Collins has been working to find ways to broaden our police department and make law enforcement in general more attractive to local young people, including women and minorities who don't often gravitate to the law enforcement field. And they had this great idea of starting basically a junior police academy. Students, including students at Ferndale High, will have the chance to study law enforcement while they're still in high school, and then go right into Baker College to complete an additional 1 year of coursework for free. After this 13th year, they'll earn an associate's degree and be eligible to head directly to the police academy. Isn't that a great idea? It's really an innovative idea, and I'm excited about it, so stay tuned because you're going to be hearing more about it as it launches this fall. Our fire department. You know, it's easy to take our outstanding fire services for granted, but we continue to offer a full-service fire department that our residents value despite our shrinking revenues. And our fire chief, Sullivan, does an outstanding job of managing that department. Now, one way they do this is by providing services to our neighbors as well. Some of you may know Pleasant Ridge and Royal Oak Township have interlocal agreements with us that have recently been renewed again, which offers them the great services that we enjoy and also revenue stability for Ferndale. Chief Sullivan has also found ways to reduce expenses, like trimming more than $100,000 this year from our defined benefits costs. But best of all, these cuts will not compromise our mission to provide the quick response time and services that they're known for. Let's talk a little bit about streets and roads. We value our infrastructure in Ferndale, and we've got a couple of major projects underway. 2 significant road projects, in fact, one on East 9 Mile Road and the other on Hilton. The East 9 Mile project is going to include a complete resurfacing, curb and gutter repairs, ADA ramp upgrades, and a conversion from 4 lanes to 3 with a center left-hand turn lane. This project is going to be constructed in 3 stages, and the entire thing is scheduled to be completed by August 13, 2015, this year. The second one is Hilton. If you live or work over on Hilton, we have improvements coming to that corridor as well, including, again, resurfacing, some curb and gutter repairs, ADA ramp upgrades, all between Woodward Heights and 10 Mile. And like 9 Mile will also be completed in 3 stages and done by July of this year. So by July of this year, Hilton is going to have some upgrades as well, because we know that upgrading our infrastructure, like we did with West 9 Mile and Livernois recently, is important to attracting investment in these corridors. So we don't ignore them. Roads might not be sexy, but to us, Lloyd, they are, right? Right. That's correct. Let's talk about another area that's near and dear to my heart, and that's parks and recreation. As I've said many times, I want to make Ferndale parks more of a priority for our city. Clean, well-maintained parks are essential to the health and vitality of this community, and especially our neighborhoods. They play a role in drawing people and families to our community, both to visit and to live. The Blue Ribbon Task Force on Ferndale Parks that I announced at my 2013 State of the City address has worked closely with our Parks and Rec Commission to review project proposals and make recommendations. I'm pleased to report that this year we will continue to see their goals coming to fruition. There are a number of projects slated to begin in 2015, including improvements to the athletic fields, a dog park, which I hear about almost once a month, right, for the dog lovers in our town, senior adult exercise equipment, and more. And I'm excited that as we speak, we're completing the Garbett Park renovations, which are underway right now. Great new play equipment is being installed and should be ready soon. So check out Garbett Park in the next few weeks. Now, when people think of the city's budget and expenditures, the expected things tend to come to mind, like police and fire and streets and parks like we've talked about. One thing we tend not to think about is the employee health care costs, which can be considerable, and the national trend is always that they're on the rise. So pardon me if I am a little boring on this, but this is actually a big part of our budget, and we've gotten really creative about how we're bringing these costs down. I'm extremely pleased to report that Ferndale is bucking the national trend of rising health costs in a big way. We have partnered with 2 nearby cities on a really innovative new program called My Life Health and Wellness Center. It's a physician-staffed clinic available to all of our full-time city employees. In addition to great treatment for illnesses and minor injuries, our employees are encouraged to go to the health clinic for risk assessments and health coaching. Research tells us that early chronic conditions like hypertension, obesity, diabetes, and others, when they can be identified earlier, the earlier they're identified, the easier and less costly they are to treat. So visits to the clinic eliminate insurance claims, which further reduce our costs as a city. And the best part, the clinic is completely free for our city employees. You know, for some, the thought of that insurance copay can be just enough to get them to say, you know, I'm going to skip the doctor this time. We've removed that barrier for employees going to see the doctor and the barriers that are necessary for their good health. The clinic just opened in January, and there have already been more than 325 visits. We're projecting a 3-year savings of $108,000 and a cost avoidance of more than $470,000. Add to that our continuing Weight Watchers at Work program, which began in 2012, and the city is looking at reducing its healthcare costs by, I think, staggering $600,000 for our healthcare, which just goes to show you what a little bit of outside-of-the-box thinking and ingenuity can accomplish. And Jenny from our HR department really led that initiative. And Jenny, I want to give you a round of applause. I think a lot more cities are going to be asking to join that in the future. We've already had a lot of folks contact us about that. It's a really innovative way to save money for our city. Now let's look downtown a little bit. The economic vitality of this district can be seen by the more than $7.5 million in private and public investment in our downtown, and 262 new jobs in our downtown workforce in 2014. Our downtown continues to thrive. Downtown Ferndale welcomed 18 new businesses last year and saw 16,000 square feet of new commercial space added. So now it's the home to places like The Rocket and Dickey's Barbecue, Bigby Coffee, and the expansion of Go Comedy Improv Theater. New businesses, such as Embrew, also contributed to this growth with the transformation of 6,500 square feet in the former VFW Hall on Vester Street into a, you know, I'm never quite sure how to describe that place. This is what I wrote down. It's a laid-back, cottage-feel, Michigan-centric food, beer, coffee, and pinball restaurant. I guess that's the only way I know how to describe it. But if you haven't been there, you have to check it out because it's unlike any place you've ever been. And you know, it's just part of the increased redevelopment and renovation that's happening in our downtown on the east side of Woodward. I think you're going to continue to see our downtown grow east of Woodward, and we're excited about that and excited that Embrew is leading the way. Now, speaking of Embrew, I'd like to acknowledge its owner, Dean Bach, who I know is here. Dean, where are you? There he is. In addition to Embrew, he also owns Dino's, and in his spare time, he agreed to take on the reins as the new chair of our Downtown Development Authority this past year, which is a big job, let me assure you. He replaces Mike Hennis, who did a great job leading the board, and I'm really looking forward to working with Dean. and get his help as we navigate the growth and the continued development of our downtown, including working together on our parking needs. Right, Dean? That's right. Yeah, it wouldn't be a state of the city if I didn't talk a little bit about parking, right? It seems to find its way into this speech every year. A couple of years ago, we rolled out a new multi-space parking meter system, and I admit it had a bit of a rocky rollout. But today, with the improvements that we've made to the system, people have adapted to it, and I think it's finally time to declare the project a success. Customers love the various pay options, and more than half of them use either credit cards or their mobile apps, options that didn't exist before that system was installed. Get this, other communities like the city of Detroit are even adopting similar systems. This is the wave of the future, folks. And just as exciting to the finance people in the room, revenues are up over $160,000 since 2012, money that will allow us to expand parking capacity in the city someday. On that note, let me just note that the city investigated an ambitious project last year that would have not only added extra parking to downtown, but would have significantly expanded the number of people working and living in our central business district, helping to support our retail, helping to grow our downtown, among other goals that we have had for a number of years. This project, known as the 360 development, was a source of much conversation and debate over the last year. You laugh about that. While City Council ultimately decided not to move forward with that project, I want to tell you that I think the time spent investigating 360 proved to be time well spent. We now have a much clearer, more detailed, and I'd say realistic analysis of our actual parking needs and a clearer understanding of their costs. And frankly, we also have a much clearer perspective of the concerns and wishes and dreams of our residents and business owners when it comes to downtown development. Yeah, this discussion was heated at times, but I will tell you sincerely that I've always felt that this kind of discussion comes from a true passion for our city and a desire for what's best for our town in the long term. And I'll be honest, I'd rather have that than a community that's indifferent or silent on things that matter. We're still going to have to address parking and how our downtown grows and develops over time. So we still have hard choices to make. But the choices we make, we will make together as one community, and everyone's voice will be heard and valued. Let's talk a little bit about the economic climate in Ferndale, if you don't mind. As you probably know, I've made improving this climate in Ferndale a priority since becoming mayor almost 5 years ago. It's why I created the Mayor's Business Council, and I'm glad to see a number of Business Council members here today. And it continues to drive our efforts because as businesses grow and relocate here, jobs and tax revenues do too. The economy in Michigan is finally improving, of course, finally, and Ferndale is helping to lead the way. We saw double-digit increases in the housing values last year, which exceeded Oakland County as a whole. We saw work permits jump 40%, and the value of construction projects in Ferndale grow a whopping 93%. Going forward, we expect this activity to continue and to move in a positive direction. And our Economic Development Director, Derek Delacourt, I don't know if he's here this evening, but his group does a wonderful job of taking care of our businesses like Pulse 220 and all the other wonderful businesses that we have in Ferndale. I'm proud to say that all of this has helped lead to another significant event, and that is an increase in our city's credit rating by Standard & Poor's from an A+ to a AA-, which is an important benchmark of how we're doing financially as a city. Basically, it means we can get lower interest rates on our bonds. It means the city has stable cash reserves for a rainy day. And it tells businesses and our residents that this is a safe and attractive city to invest in. So look, we're not totally out of the woods yet from the Great Recession, and we'll be challenged to keep costs down and be creative in how we deliver our services. But all things considered, I'm very optimistic about our future, and I believe the state of our city is strong. But in talking about the state of our city, it's important to go back to what I said earlier and to think about what we value. These programs, these services, And the people, like the ones that we've heard about tonight, are essential to the health and vitality of this community. They're also a choice. We have a great DPW, police, fire, recreation, all of these things because the residents of Ferndale choose to support them. I, for one, am grateful to live in a community that values and invests in quality services like we possess. By the way, speaking of quality services, I need to mention the importance of not only our public school system, but also our new district library and the critical role that they both play in contributing to our overall success of our city. We're building strong partnerships with them this year because we know and understand we're all in this together. So, one more shameless plug. As the May election approaches, May 5th, I encourage you to learn more about proposals 2 and 3, the local millage, the Headley override, and the streets and park proposals. Voting yes on these proposals will not only lower your taxes, yes, you've heard me right, will lower your taxes, but if that's not a good enough incentive, it's a great way to show your support for the essential city services and the community that we all call home. I'm grateful for the opportunity to help lead this city. I'm excited to be a part of it, and I'm thankful that you're all a part of it as well. So thank you very much, and thank you for coming tonight.